Pastor Roy Gerhardt from Galloway United Methodist Church in Franklin, Pennsylvania, sharing a few words of encouragement to help us follow after Jesus. You know, the world can seem very complicated with all sorts of things going on at once, all kinds of different systems, biological, ecological, economical, social, all of these different systems that are operating at once, overlapping and impacting as each other as they are intertwined with each other. But Christians gain a lens to look at the world and to see this, that God is ultimately the designer, builder, planner. He is the one who actually understands what's going on, that we have a faith that gives us a hope that God actually understands what's going on in this world, that he can engage with all of those systems at once. In fact, he can also manage all of this in a way that fulfills a purpose, a greater purpose in his hands. And even our individual lives then are in his hands, being worked in a purposefulness. That God has the recipe for all of this. You know, today I read the scripture that says, taste and see that the Lord is good. God has a recipe for life, and it is good. And when you get a taste of it, it begins to bring that goodness to your life. And man, it brings a flavor to life. And then in turn, you and I bring that flavor of God's mix into the world around us. That there are all kinds of consequences that God is able to produce in life because he is in us and he is working in our lives. And all of those different effects and consequences, well, it's like a flavor ingredient that we have brought to the recipe. You know, Jesus said that you and I are the light of the world and the salt of the earth. That when God is in us, that we bring a flavoring to all of life. And many times it's not really recognized or appreciated. The impact that Christians bring, where we bring the sweet savor of God's grace in our life into various other situations that touches other people. And the consequences of that can be so transformative that one person becomes a believer and is saved, and then the outworking of that in their family can change generations to come. And we can impact our workplace, our school. All of these things are intertwined and networked in a way that when we bring that element of God into them, it brings a transforming power that just becomes infused into this whole recipe. The flip side, however, is also true, that when we fail in sin, when we turn away from God, that it's like we remove an ingredient from the recipe. And man, life can go sour. We've seen that as we've been looking at the life of King David in 2 Samuel 11. He fell big time in sin. And when the Lord sent his prophet in chapter 12 to confront David, well, Nathan not only called out David for what he had done, but he told him this list of consequences that were going to fall out from his sin. This included the child that was born of an adulterous relationship that would die, and then there would be an unraveling in David's family and his household that would affect so many after the fact. Some of this seems like direct consequences, like perhaps this child's death in some fashion is a direct consequence of his sin. The unraveling of his sons and his family with violence and pain and heartache, that one may be harder to see as a direct consequence of what David had done. But you see, when you take out an ingredient in the recipe, all of a sudden you realize something doesn't taste right anymore. And from that point on, there are effects that fall out, these unintended consequences. Then David has the impact of that in his family as his sons run wild, and there is violence and pain that affect not only David and his immediate family, but the whole nation. You see, you and I need to recognize that what God has brought to our lives is a sweet savor of his grace, and that we bring that into life. And the consequences of turning away from God is to lose that secret ingredient for life in God's grace. But it's not too late to turn around. Make that turn in your life. Start afresh with God's forgiveness and get the missing ingredient put back into the recipe of your life. Let God be in your heart. May God bless you today. And as you share his good news, may God make you a blessing wherever he takes you.